The last time I spoke here in this room, I might have spoken to about 12 people. Maybe it was 100 people, but the fact of the matter is there are many more people here today than there were on that day. So I suspect from that our speaker today, Dr. Ben, doesn't need much of an introduction, because y'all came here because y'all knew Dr. Ben was speaking here. So y'all know Dr. Ben, is that right? Right. Okay. But for the one or two people in here who may have been astronauts and on the moon or something like that, let me just say that Dr. Ben has been engaged for a very long time in the work that is defined by the acronym CEMOTAP, a committee to eliminate media offensive to African people. Dr. Ben has been a one-man committee to eliminate media offensive to African people. And he spared no media in the fight. Even if the media was called the Holy Bible, Dr. Ben was uncovering it, those aspects of it that were offensive to African people. And he was not only uncovering those aspects that were offensive to African people, he was digging up and unearthing that information that was critical for the advancement of African people. The Bible is a medium. The Quran is a medium. The Torah is a medium. The Rig Veda is a medium. The so-called Book of the Dead is a medium. And all of it needs to be examined and elucidated from the perspective of advancing African people. Dr. Ben has been singular in this work. He is a historian, an educator, an engineer, a writer, and yes, relevant to what I was just talking about before, also a photographer. Dr. Ben takes his camera with him, and you'll see the pictures of the great works of art, great works of architecture, and the people. You'll see them in his books. He's written many books. A couple of my favorites were Africa, Mother of Civilization, and Africa's Contribution to the Major Western Religions. As I said, I'm sure you're in this room because most of you have heard of Dr. Ben before, and most of you know him, and most of you love him. For those of you who didn't know anything about Dr. Ben until you heard those few words that I said, believe me, I'm only scratching the surface. Brothers and sisters, it is a great privilege for CEMOTAP to have as our speaker today, speaking on Lies and Distortions, Africa Revisited, the great Dr. Yosef Ben-Jochannan.
I would like to say good evening. I think that this subject matter is, for me, quite timely, because when I leave you after the lecture, I'm on my way to Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. What to me is the most important part of what we learn from the public media is what we retain and what we use as the gospel truth. And from the public media, most of us use 100% of what we read as the gospel truth, as if the gospel truth is truth. The gospel truth is gospel. And that's the only thing about it. You don't need to call it truth, because to whom it is truth. The biggest problem we have is truth. What do we mean by that? For most of us, truth is anything we hear and became accustomed to and have adopted, and it's truth. Not necessarily what we have certified by examining. So it is truth that Christianity is the only true religion. It is truth that Islam is the only true religion. It's truth that Judaism, and I could go on all night by that, and I could get approval of each of those statements for many of you within this audience. And each of you would fight the other over those truths. And yet, no way in any of them is the truth. Because if it was an intrinsic truth, you would not have to fight each other or even have a controversy. The mere fact that you don't agree on truth means it is not true. So let us deal with the things that we could possibly understand. Let us take, a young man asked me when I was in the gentleman's room, not the ladies of course, just this afternoon, did I believe in one spiritual God, one God that was in charge of everyone? And since I know that the word God is masculine, I hesitated because I didn't know the answer to his question. Since it is, why should God be a man? That upset a lot of the women in here, because you know that God is a man because you just call him he and him this morning, or probably when you came in here. Since I don't, I have no background in that, then I must equally ask, why was the question? The question is because it is bothering that young man as to the answer we read in a Bible. And our Judeo-Christian Islamic Bible established a kind of ridiculous position that we cannot get ourselves out. So therefore, God, to most of us, has to be a man or male-like figure. If someone will come to us and say that God is neither male nor female, we got problems. And if we say that God is a hermaphrodite character, worse problem. I didn't say a homosexual, I said hermaphrodite character. That means that God is both male and female. Well, you will find that when you go to Egypt, when you go to Sudan, and when you go to Ethiopia, as I am returning. Because the deity, God, goddess, is always presented along the Nile as both male and female, or male with female. And you have problem. You have problem because along the Nile, God have intercourse with goddess and have children. Now you got problem with that, because you know Jesus couldn't get anything at all. Now, but Jesus could be saving everybody, dealing with man, dealing with woman, in charge of operation, in charge of menstruation, in charge of homosexuality, in charge of everything. Matter of fact, nothing can happen without God in it. Now, if nothing can happen without God in it, how come you're mad with AIDS? It can't happen unless God wanted it to happen. That's your statement. Nothing in this world can happen without God's intervention. And if God wouldn't want it, it wouldn't happen. But you can't tell me then, how is it that God got so angry and drunk the world the last time, leaving only one family? 40 days in the boat, of course, 2 of everything. I was trying to measure that boat the other day and found that the boat is not as big as this building. 30 cubics. It's less than the length of this building, and it had 2 of everything. It didn't have 2 African lions, of course, or 1. We don't need to mention that. I hesitated because I know I give you a chance to figure. Having the tail of 1 dinosaur would have been difficult, much less the body of a dinosaur. I just want to establish how we see truth. And truth, if we would say, to me, truth, if we are going to talk about a God concept, would be the original of anything, as a matter of fact. So when I speak of the concept of a deity, I primarily dealing with one that comes from the center of Africa, and among one group of people, the people that you may call by the ridiculous name which the English call them, pygmies. Of course, the indigenous people call themselves Twa and Hutu. And in Egypt, they were called Sebenetos. In the southern tip of Africa, they call themselves Khoi Khoi and Kalahari. You call them in the southern tip of Africa Hottentot, like the Europeans do. But you fail to remember that when those people were presenting to the world, their world, any form, any aspect of a deity, Jehovah, Jesus, no Allah was anywhere around. I need to repeat that again and make it more clear for most of you. I said that when the Africans in the central part of Africa was dealing with the concept of a deity, God and a goddess, no one in the world, any place in the world, even knew or had any idea of a God by the name of Jehovah, Jesus, and or Allah. It was thousands of years later that what the Africans had brought forth to mankind as a whole, those that were living, and I need to make this very clear, not a single Hebrew or Jew existed. Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, or anything existed when the Africans along the Nile were already dealing with the concept of a deity. The most common at the earliest time was the deity symbolized by the sun, not the sun. Never once did the Africans preach that any material things or any other animal was the deity, but use these as symbols of the deity. Many of you would be going to Egypt quite soon and other places on the continent, and you would go and come back with the same mythology that missionaries has placed in your mind. You would talk of the sun god, and that the ancient Egyptians and others of Africa worshiped animals, birds, etc. And that isn't true. It is of saying that Christians worship the cross. And you know that is not true. It's a symbol. When you see, and that the media present to us, I've just been reading some articles dealing with a conference in Canada, in which many of the scholars, biblical scholars, particularly biblical archaeology, especially at this time when Passover is here, stated that there is no evidence, no physical evidence of the Passover ever happening. That mess you up. But I'll make it better for you. There is no evidence at all in Egypt of a Hebrew people living at the time when they were supposed to, Worst of all, being slaves in Egypt. There is no record whatsoever in Egypt of a Hebrew people, one of them by the name of Joseph. There is no record of a prime minister in Egypt by the name of Potiphar. And there is no record of a man living in any of the Pharaoh's home by the name of Moses. No record whatsoever. Make it a little better for you. The first Hebrew or Jew, whatever name you want to call him, and that I guess would make me anti-Semitic, until the Africans along the Nile were about in the 13th dynastic period, that the first Hebrew or Jew, Avram, was born, and that will put us around 1675. Let's be generous. Let's 1700 before the Common Era, which you would prefer to say before the Christian era. Yet you have facts, and facts upon which you work daily, none of which coincide with the information I'm bringing to you. But the reason is that you have no reference, for the most part you had, I should say, prior to the revolution that started in the 1960s, died down, started again in the 1970s, highlighted by the expose of Dr. Jeffries, which many people are sorry now that they even touched, because what they have done, instead of damaging Dr. Jeffries, they have brought to the forefront information which other people would not have known. And now many people are going to, who had no intent of studying more about the Passover, the Christian crucifixion period. Many people who thought that it is Rome that had given them, most of us in here, and most of us outside of here, believe that we became Christians because we were lucky to be in slavery in one Western colonial power or another. Very few of us have any idea that even Christianity started on African soil. We knew, and I'm not dealing with the principles that were adopted. I am talking about Christianity itself physically started in a place called Alexandria with Pantius and Boetius, two Egyptians, Africans of Egypt, using Greek name because at that time Greek was the language most common in Egypt. And I want you to remind yourself to look at a map, because Egypt, the last time I said a month ago, was still in Africa, even though I heard it's in a place called Middle East. But it was Pantius and Boetius who started when they revolted from the synagogue and started an extension of what was a teaching that preceded Jesus by more than 4,000 years. Thus, when you see Jesus, you are seeing the rebirth of a person that existed 4,100 years before Jesus and Mary. If you call Mary Isis, and that's a Greek word, let us say Aset, or Ast, and you call Jesus Heru, or you want to use the Greek word Horus, and then you call Jehovah Asaru or Asara, you will speak about three personalities or deities who gave you your Jesus figure. If you would take the story of those three Africans along the Nile, add 4,000 years to your Jesus, 6,000 years ago then, you will have Christianity before Christ. That is hard to understand. What I'm saying to you is that when you go to Egypt with Sister Betty, I don't care who you go to Egypt with as long as you get there. Because when you get there, you've got to go to Abydos. That's where I am right now. I'm in the southern part of Egypt at a place called Abydos. I'm in the temple of Seti I. He is the king, the Pharaoh king, who was reigning in Egypt up to 1298 when he died. And in one of the chapels next to a Holy of Holies, this temple has 7 Holy of Holies. And next to the left one upon entering is a small chapel that showed the Immaculate Conception of Isis. The virgin birth of her child, Horus, 4,100. Not only that, you would be on the only Holy Land. I'm not talking about Jerusalem. I'm not talking about Bethlehem. And I'm certainly not talking about Mecca, the last of the Holy Lands. I am speaking about the first Holy Land mankind ever knew. What's sad about it is that it's your Holy Land I'm speaking about, and you know less about it than anybody else. Abydos was a holy land that the people of ancient time flocked and came to, no less so than people flocked to go to Mount Ararat and the times when the Muslims have the Great Hajj. Again, but we have the truth, and we deal with truth, the one and only truth. Yet we don't know this truth, the first of the truths of all the religious concepts. Religious concept that we even carried all the way to India. Africans who carried it there now call untouchable. Yet they still call them Tumuls, T-U-M-U-L, and we call them Dravidians. These same untouchables gave to India, the Indians of the north, the Bhagavad Gita, and gave them the concept of their own Bible. And the Indians themselves, the Hindu themselves, noted the fact that they got the concept of their Bible. What else did they carry? They carried there the worship of goddess Hathor, symbolized as a cow. The same Hathor which the Jews worship, the same Hathor which Moses is supposed to have a fight with his brother Aaron on the mountain that you call the sacred cow. So when you go to Egypt, from north to south, south to north, you will see in the temples, most vividly in the temple of Nefertari II at Abydos, at Abu Simbel. You will see her dramatically at the temple of Hatshepsut, the funerary temple at Deir Ebali, on the west bank of the river Nile. Most of all, you would see her most dramatically in the temple dedicated to her at a place called Dendera. While we mention the name Dendera, and I look and see in the audience, as most of the time the sisters predominantly, it is at Dendera that you see how the African present the quality of the African woman by showing her as goddess Nut in the ceiling, giving birth to the sun passing through her vagina in the morning, spreading its rays of light. And within those rays of light, goddess Hathor holding a sprig of what is called the tree of life. not an anti-life tree, as you would find in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, a forbidden fruit tree. This is one of life. She smiles because the rays from the sun come through the vagina of God. No, this is pornographic in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This is pornography. You can't talk about rays and sun coming through the vagina. We don't even admit to babies coming through vagina. I mean, if a woman wants to talk about giving birth to a baby, she says, I had a child. And that's talking to her husband. I'm not even mentioning her boyfriend. See, she got to be a kind of afraid to let people know that a baby came through there, even though she came through one. You understand what's going on? And then most mothers are afraid to even admit that they had sex, married or not married. I mean, you can understand how these things will get. But the ancient Egyptian along the Nile had no problem with any of this. So when you planning to go to Egypt, on the walls and on the columns all over Egypt, you're going to see sexual explanations, not only by words, but by pictures. You will see God Mim, the god of fertility, constantly at all times when you see him. And you're going to see him every way you cast your eyes, with a penis that's completely erected to the point that sometimes it has a curvature at the end. But you will also notice that the ancient Africans, though showing the sexuality of the god of fertility, Mim, did not show the penis coming from his crotch, but instead coming from his umbilical cord, his navel. That's showing that the sexual intercourse not only is the deity, but it is life continuous. Because the penis is nothing but an extension of the umbilical cord. As I said, you can't deal with that today in the synagogue. You couldn't deal with it yesterday in the mosque. And you certainly can't deal with it tomorrow in the church. Yet it is the thing you should be dealing with tomorrow. Because without it, there's no life. And the resurrection scene, the first resurrection scene, as you enter the temple of Setaiwan at Abydos, is the resurrection of Osiris' penis from a dead horizontal to a perpendicular. The Masonic lodges read about this someplace, got messed up from England and France, and while wearing a top hat, silk top hat, a wingtip shirt, a cutaway jacket looking like penguin, feeling that they got something great, not knowing the source, and would not take a time to go to the original place from whence the whole concept came, using terms of which they have no understanding. And that goes for the daughters of so-and-so and of Isis and so-and-so, using of the such thing as the Grand Lodge of Luxor, and would not come to Luxor. They will go only to Israel and turn around. And maybe they would come to Cairo to see the pyramids, and there are no pyramids in Cairo. The pyramids in Giza, the closest one, across the river from Cairo. Misinformation, but still the truth. The only truth. And that is the media. The media is typical of our religions. It's typical of our theology. It's typical of our culture. The media only is a reflection of one aspect, a bad reflection. Of course, we got to deal with it. But I'm just trying to show you how damaging it is. It is as damaging as the information we get sitting down in the pew on Sunday, sitting down in the pew on Saturday, and sitting down in the pew on Friday or any other time.
With Asana, AI teammates can help level up your goals by connecting them to relevant projects. So every team knows their role.
Man and leave and say that man is anti-religious. I'm not. I know you don't believe that. You believe that I'm the Antichrist. But even that I'm not. I don't have 3 names. Each name is 6 letters. So then I can't be the Antichrist. when I get 3 names, each name with 6 letters, then call me the Antichrist, and I'll be glad to respond, thank you. I am different than that. My wife, up to this morning, said to me, oh, God, Ben. So you understand what I do? So now, if you had any problem with who I am, you now know. And I guess she wouldn't use that term unless it was real. Well, what we are saying, and I've done it in a little humor here and there, but what I am saying to you is that you cannot sit down home. You must go with Sister Betty or somebody else to validate. Some of us come to to Israel, and then we come over to Giza, Cairo for some, and we go and watch one of the 3 major pyramids of the world. I said the world because there are pyramids in Central America, and of course there are pyramids in Sudan. Most of us don't even know there are pyramids in Sudan. There are 82 in Egypt and there are 37 in Sudan. Otherwise, an area called Meroe. But the largest of all the pyramids, those of the 4th dynasty, around 2700 plus before the Common Era. They will come to the largest one in particular. That's what most people like to go when they're going up inside to see nothing inside. Just a good climb up about 10 stories, walking in this way. And when you come down in this way. And at the bottom of it, your knees start going like this. Some people are saying, I'm telling you, they've been there and saw it. I stopped going up because my knee can't make it anymore. But they will come there and touch the pyramid. Go up to it, make sure. Look at the stones. See not one single brick made of any material. And yet leave there and say, I saw the pyramid the Jews built out of mud and straw. Now, you talking about behavior modification. You talking about Pavlov dog. And name some other things. That is mind-blowing. And you're talking about people that have been made to think and act like fools. Because if you see the thing, you go up to it, you touch it, and you must still say that it is what you did not see, solely because you were told that, and ashamed and afraid for someone to say that you are going against what is being told. You refuse to deal with reality. Thank you, Sister Beth. Refuse to deal with reality. Yes, there isn't a single brick made of mud and straw or water. The pyramids you are going to see there, the stones were hewn, cut from a mountain about 5 miles away from those pyramids at the Giza Plateau. A mountain called the Mokata Mountains. And carried in the inundation period over there. People, we are so gullible that you will find people come to Egypt, some of us, to see the pyramids that were built from the top down. What happened with the sky hook that was connected to the cloud? What happened? The cloud moved and there's no cloud today. Are you mean to say they said, no, it was built by men with great minds who could suspend blocks? All right. But look, let us see. The largest one is 48 stories high. That's about 481 feet tall. What happened when night came and they couldn't see to work? The poor guy stood and still suspended from when he on the 81st floor. Now they're down to the 80th floor. They're all underneath there. Till they put they stick the last stone underneath and drive it and shore it up between the earth and space. How dumb can you get? But again, we want to believe things that are not, because it gives us the opportunity as to what Sister Betty and the brother Dr. McIntyre were telling you just a while ago. It is better to say, I will read the newspaper, than to say, I will do the work. I will read and see what they did. And I will say, yes, they're doing good work. But I will not do and I will not give towards good work. And that's why you get such bad information, because you wouldn't do good work. It is worse than that. I'm trying to get African scholars, quote unquote, to come to Egypt, to Sudan, to Ethiopia, and elsewhere to do field research, first-hand information. But we are satisfied with taking out a book. We would condemn the European writer. But the European writer is in Egypt every day. He's in Sudan every day. Therefore, what he writes, he put his interpretation. Quite recently, some people at the University of Chicago have to admit that Seal, one of the greatest Egyptologists, wrote, they found many of the things that he had written were complete and total lies. But they did not say that Seal lied. Though they admitted it were lies, he made academic miscalculations. And that's why many of my colleagues at the university and I couldn't get along, because if I thought a guy was a liar, he's a blasted liar. A damn liar. And I may come up with an MF liar. Because I realize that the Pope can't make any rules for me to follow and tell me which language is profane and which language is feigned. It ain't nobody more feigned and profane than he is. So for him to tell me what I could say, it's just like you know, when I say some of my choice little four-letter words, if I get hot enough, then you say, that man always so dirty. What isn't dirty? If the word exists, I can't be dirty using it. It's just that I express myself with a sweetness of the Lord. I speak the language of the people. Can you imagine Jesus coming here and said, thou crowd, hitherist, extricate the quadruple, and come unto me yonder morning, and I shall compensate thee. Now what the hell did I say? All I said is take out the four-legged animal out of the cart, come in the morning, and I'll pay you. Now, couldn't I have said that with all that nonsense I just said? No, but you like it better because you don't like four-letter word. You prefer to do it, of course, but you don't like it. You don't ever want to hear it spoken. But I speak it because Jesus spoke the language of the people. Give me some skin, baby. Can you imagine? Look, Sister Betty, how good she look. Can you imagine Jesus coming to her at the morning, at the well, or anything? It ain't got to be the well, it could be anywhere. And throw his hand around her. And the juice, the magnet that's coming from her body and hit Jesus. I mean, if there might have been another Good Friday. But you can't think of that term. Immediately you are thinking that he's sacrilegious. No, I'm not sacrilegious. I am conscious of the integrity of the African woman, of the strength of the African woman. You understand me, brothers? I know some of you brothers may not know because you have never tried a black woman. But try one, it's good for your soul.
And we're back. The team is looking down the barrel of a 4:55 meeting.
Can they turn it around and make this meeting an email?
Jones is
the African sister. The African brother didn't go around, man, I can't get me a good, man, it's hard to get me a good black woman. I don't know, but let's go. I'll leave that for another comment. How can he say this? When all other people in the world were not writing, expressing themselves, the African men were in the ceilings long before, thousands of years before Michelangelo, were in the ceilings painting the African woman as goddess. In one case, they painted the African woman as goddess Nut. Over the head of every pharaoh was a double goddess, goddess Nut, back to back, like the Caribbean song, back to back, I done dead, I got it, get it ready. And up there, put stars on her body. And showed her of the goddess of truth and justice. In other places, they show her as the goddess of the universe, of the sky. And then he showed himself as the god of the firmament, god of Yeshu. He called the goddess Nut. He showed the god of the earth, Geb, holding her hands and her feet apart while her body take the shape of a semicircle. And you know what the caption read? God's shoe has one hand. The right hand cover her vagina. The left hand cover the two nipples of her breast. And the caption reads, Goddess Nut as heaven. God's shoe covering the two columns of heaven. And you looking in the air for heaven. And heaven gave birth to you. Heaven is the place you return as a man. Heaven is the place that makes you happy. Heaven is the place with the deep, listen to your Bible, a deep, where is the place that man came from originally? They said a deep, dark, right? Spit. Well, let us ask. Full of fluid, brine. Well, let us ask. Didn't you come from there? Did it need Jehovah, Jesus, or Allah? No. Go back and check anatomy. Go back and ask yourself what it is that bursts when you're about to come here. And then ask yourself, when you beat her, kick her, and tell her, bitch, come here, bring your ass here. Go back and see if it isn't heaven you're talking to. Because it is there, that thing you call the placenta. That you haven't got. That side that we can't look of because of the roadblocks. We can't look because we are so conditioned by sexual stoppage. We can't talk. A woman cannot marry but cannot come to her husband in bed naked. She must come with all kind of clothes and then get underneath the sheet and slip this off and slide that off and all this. And he too. Because they're married, but each are ashamed of the other to see what each know the other got. Truth. The reality of marriage. By the system, the culture in which we live, marry, have a good life, don't touch the girl, come to the bed virgin, you can prove it, she can't. Come to the bed virgin, she's at a disadvantage. But you come to the bed virgin, then you have you get a little exercise, you know what I mean? You can't even call it sex indecent. And then, but the baby, let's say you marry, you went through all that. You, the man, didn't have any sexual intercourse, hardly touch your own self for a while. She, the woman, did likewise. You are pure. Me, the good for nothing. I like that name. And I wouldn't say you because you're with the man. But you, the single woman who don't mind me touching you, they go up tonight in the honeymoon castle untouched by human hands, even their own. We get up in the next honeymoon castle, been touched by all kind of hands. And we have a little bit, they have a little bit. But the funny thing is, truth, their baby's going to be born in the same sin as our baby going to be born. Now what reason do I have not to get a little piece? If before the wedding, if the babies, both of them, going to be born in sin. Truth. And that's what we have to do is truth. And the Bible itself said it's not an ending situation. Truth is an everlasting search for answer. Truth is the light, they said. And I don't think light is that important anyhow, because you see, light is substitute. Like the other day I was there and the brother, the condensation, all the lights didn't work. And I said, ooh, good, I'm gonna get me a TV. And why not? Condensation was ripping me off all the time. It was my turn to rip off somebody. I believe in the 13th commandment. It says, thou shalt, if thou art African, get what thou want, what thou need from other people. You see, I understand law that the most important thing is black. So there wasn't a blackout. You see, that's the difference in you and me. You say it was a blackout. It was not. It is always black. If the sun don't come, you got a black out. Everything is black. You understand it? If you white and the sun don't come, you got to black out. I can't tell you white in the middle of the night when the light is off, because black is constant. So when you say they don't like me because I'm black, they don't like me because they're white. You see, how can they not like me when I've given to the world the foundation of the concept of a deity? I've given the world writing. I've given the world the concept of high culture you call civilization. It isn't that they don't like me. It's that they can't deal with me. So they call me the invisible man. I'm invisible when I quote the things that Diane Ravitch, you understand? Edward Koch, oh Edwina. Arthur Schlesinger and others. And now we come to the zebras. Dr. Gordon, Edmund W. Gordon, Henry Louis Skip Gates. I think he should have skipped Gates. And others who know not. These are the responsible Negroes, coloreds, jigaboos, and zebras. They join because they feel that they're mistreated because they're black. Most of them would not even admit they're black. Some of them can't even find a black wife. After 3 tries, Gordon needs to find. Some of these black sisters need to show Brother Gordon a trick or two, but he might even get frightened like hell and run past Alabama. And I wonder when he looked up and saw the black mother, he must have felt like hell day one when he was born. He must say, what's that? Somebody need to tell him that was a black mother making a mistake. No, you can't blame the sister. The sister tried. But you must say, some of us don't win all the time. We produce the Thomases, justice or not. All because they do not know truth. I think it was the Persian who said in his poetry, all truth, all faith is true, all faith is false. And he went on with his poetry, but down at the end he came to the point, he said that because each of us believe the whole, when you get a glass, the shattered glass, we get a little piece, you get a little piece, it's cut in our hand, but each of us is saying, my little piece is it. Yet it needs all the pieces to bring together to again make the mirror the whole. And that is why we cannot challenge effectively to put, it's not enough to put the post in financial difficulty. It means that somebody among us is buying the post. There's a traitor in the house. The cry went out that we don't buy the post. I didn't buy the post, not only. I don't buy the news. I don't buy any one of them. I don't do, if you are against the people, my people, then you're against me. I have not bought a record by Diana Ross. I will not buy anything by Michael Jackson. And for those who go, I see when Elvis Presley, the date of his death, I see African young people, women and men crying at his grave. I look at them and say, they got the truth. The truth says, do not talk bad of the dead. Why not? If a bastard was no good when he was alive, why should I talk good about him now that he's dead? No, that is no truth. That's somebody's truth, but it isn't my truth. I cannot speak good of Thomas Jefferson, though he wrote, "Be it resolved that all men are created equally." That dog didn't believe nothing like that. And how could I, on the 4th of July, talk about the father of our country, speaking about George the Nasty? Lion George that didn't cut down a tree, no cherry. Martha wants him for inactiveness. And even though Benjamin Franklin exempted himself from participation in the enslavement and the document, he did nothing at all to avoid it. So why did I take the position I'm taking here? Because I know when you take up a dollar bill, when I take this dollar out of my pocket, Sister Betty, let me know when it's time because I could go on and go on. I'll miss the plane. You take on the green side, brothers, I know some of, if you're married or got a girlfriend, don't put your hand in your pocket. I got this one because I borrowed it. Don't mind, I'm complaining, but I'm not going to get rid of her unless I got another one. But on the green side, I know where George Washington and the members of the Continental Congress got the symbols. I know that the money, that the symbol of my God Ra, the sun, which, don't forget, all of you Jews, all of you Christians, all of you Muslims, you got the same God I got, because at the end of your prayer, you still say Amen. You still say Amen. Amen Ra. The God of the north and the God of the south mixed together. You still speak of the eye of Horus, which Horus lost in the struggle of justice, fighting against his uncle Typhon for having killed him. You still carry the story of the man who fought his brother and killed his brother, but you got the wrong name. You attribute it to Cain and Abel. Thousands of years before there was a Cain or an Abel mentioned by anyone, because you don't have a Cain and an Abel until Abraham is born. The Jews brought the concept of Cain and Abel. But long before there was an Abraham, there was the fight between Typhon killing his brother Osiris, and Osiris's son, Typhon's nephew, killing Typhon in return. You're going to see that. You're going to see that in life size when you go to the corridor, outer corridor, at a temple called the Temple of Horus the Elder, at a place called Edfu. It is the best kept temple to date of the ruined ones. Yet they tell us that the Greeks gave us drama. How can it be when this temple you're going to see, they tell us that the Norwegian and the Scandinavian gave us the harpoon. You're going to go there and see the story 4,000 plus 2,000 years, 6,000 years, and you will see Horus harpooning with a harpoon. Yet the Swedes give us the harpoon. Where you have the truth. These are truths that you must write down in the classroom and get 100% if you put it. And Diane Ravitch would say that Jeffries got no business changing this. And Jeffries would not change it. But Jeffries went to the Nile a few times. And he saw something he couldn't refuse. Truth. Another truth. Truth of the indigenous Africans that were his antecedents. And that's the problem we face with. We face with it as you are faced with July the 4th. When you are going to go down to march for Cristobal Colon. Cristobal Colon, who the Spaniards liked so much, they put his behind in jail and kept him there until he died. While you stay here preparing with D'Amato and others and Ferrara and others and Como. All of them brothers and sisters who have to declare their whiteness because you were in Sicily. You were at the gates of Rome with Hannibal. And you stood there for umpteen years. And when the brothers wanted sex, they did not catch the elephant and say, come here, sister elephant. I want to be happy. Give me some heaven. No, the Italians are not dark because of the sun or because of wishful thinking. They're dark because of a certain thing called black penis. It is not Othello and Desdemona alone, because Shakespeare wrote 7 such plays with the Africans in a dominant position in the European monarchy. But more than that, we don't have to even worry about Shakespeare because, as you know, the Medici family could validate it. And you are an Quinian and all kind of statue, but you must remember that you once had a quote-unquote Negro-colored king that ruled this land. I'm talking about George III. The George that George Washington, honest George, fought the other dishonest George. The George who could speak no English, the German George. The German George who was the great-grandson of Alessandro Medici. Alessandro de Medici, who was the daughter of Martha from Ethiopia, and Pope Medici of the Roman Catholic Church of Christ. I don't need to deal with more. I mean, because I could go up to, for those of you who don't feel good about that, I could go up right there in Sweden and get the blunders of the blunt of you. Because to make sure that the nigger you sleep in bed may be yourself. Because I'm going to talk about the Count Bernadotte that became Sweden's first king, a brother from Haiti. Now they come to think about Haiti. I mean, all of you should be kissing Haitians. Because when you kiss a Haitian, you're kissing your cousin. It is at Haiti that they brought your ancestors first. It was then called Hispaniola, Haiti and Santo Domingo. It is there the Roman Catholic priest Bartholomew las Casas, with the power of Pope Martin V, that brought Africans from Spain, not from Africa, Africans who had been in Spain for 774 years, from 711 to 1845. Those Africans calling themselves Moors, I'm 1457, Africans who brought Columbus in a ship, not to America. Columbus have never seen America, north, central, or south. He saw the island of San Salvador. That's the closest he came, and he didn't sail a single ship. Pietro Alonso Nino was the admiral of the fleet. The 5 ships that left, Columbus was the admiral of the expedition, in charge of the expedition. Nino took over the helm of the Santa Maria and sailed the ship. How Columbus going to sail the ship and he's put in the brigs by his men who revolted against him? He's going to sail the ship from the brigs? No. Truth. There's them that truth, and there's us here truth. So us here truth. Synotap's truth. It's got to be the truth we adhere to. It's our truth. Our truth that we have investigated. Our truth from which the blood flows. Our truth from which millions. Somebody telling me about people with a Holocaust. I'm not talking about a Holocaust ending with a T. I am talking about Holocaust ended with an S. The plural. I am talking about Holocaust in which not one of us survived. Tasmania. Every man, woman, and child is dead. There isn't one left. I'm talking about a Holocaust that's still going on from 638 of the Common Era, or 18 AH, the year after the Hijra by the Arabs, to the present time. That's the Holocaust. The Holocaust, the worst of our Holocaust, and I'm ending up for your question, the worst of our Holocaust took place here. The mind. There is something on the radio that says the mind is a horrible thing to waste. If you got one. Most of them are saying that hasn't lost anything because they don't have a mind. If they had a mind, they would not have acted as they do. If they had a mind, how could we not come here as we do is around? Don't come here just because I'm here. The revolution doesn't stop when I'm not here. It doesn't go when I go. How can you get in the revolution? You say, you are in the revolution when you support your child. You are being revolutionist. You're in the revolution when the sister said, I missed my period. And you say, what happened? She said, I think I'm pregnant. And you don't say, I got to go down to buy a loaf of bread 22 years. 22 years at the bakery. You're in the revolution when you see a young brother, 6 years, pressing his nose and his eyes and everything against the window at the restaurant or the top. Didn't have enough to eat. You call him inside and you fed him. You're in the revolution when a sister is in 3 foot of snow and the forecast is for 6 and the wind blowing and you drive in with your special car with traction, front and traction wheels. And you pull up and say to the sister, hop in. And then you don't ask her name. You ask what is the address and you drop her. And you don't ask her what color drawers she's wearing. And when she asks you, what do I owe you for this? Say, tell your man, tell your man when you go home, he owes another sister something. Our our revolution can be played out by every one of us. Sure, there are times when you come to the synotypes and other places like that to coordinate certain action, but daily you have the responsibility for doing your own revolution, and you started when you find out that you're pregnant, and you said, if I get a boy, he's going to be treated the same way as a girl. I'm going to start to talk to him inside my womb. And Daddy, when you rub her on her navel, when you rub and feel the movement of the child, you start speaking to that child and say, if you're a boy, child coming out here, remember that the woman you're going to rape is your mama. That the woman you're going to hold up is your mama. You got to talk to that boy. You can't call that little girl just because she got one baby. You bitch, you whore, you slut. And then call your son who got a whole block of babies. Don Juan. Rudolph Valentino. Now, the revolution is now, and Synotop is one of the causes. Let me hear that you came there and did what you got to do.
Please do not rush for the doors. We have some more business to take care of, and Dr. Ben is going to be back for some questions and answers. What we have scheduled right now, we're going to take a collection, then we're going to have a comfort break in which we ask you to go out and